Hey everybody, this is Rustin Rose of Metalholic Magazine and of course Metal Nation Radio. Joining us tonight, the musical and lyrical mastermind, Tobias Sammet of Avantasia, and of course Edguy. How are you doing?
I'm doing fine. Thanks for having me on the show. How are you doing?
I am doing wonderful. It's wonderful to get a chance to talk to you. The 7th Avantasia album, Ghostlight, drops this coming week. So far, it's been hailed as perhaps your biggest, best, and most bombastic to date. But I imagine you feel that way about every new release, right?
Of course. I'm paid to say nothing but the best about my own work. Seriously, whenever you finish an album, you're happy with it. Otherwise, there's no point in delivering. I mean, there's nobody standing behind me with a gun saying, "Deliver! Stand and deliver!" It's just, whenever I come up and whenever I go to the record company and say, "Look, this is what I have, release it," I'm nothing but proud of it and happy. But I have a feeling, I have to say, that this time, even though I'm not any more proud than usually, because I'm always as proud as you can be, but this time I have a feeling that everybody receives the album so well, and everybody is so extremely positive about it, I would say enthusiastic, that I have a feeling that, well, this time I might have hit the taste of a lot of people, and this time a lot of people seem to be very, very, very happy with what I've done. So maybe I've done better, and I just have to realize it yet.
Well, it is a fantastic album. It's already being hailed as one of the top albums of the year, potentially, come the end of the year. But Ghostlights is the second and final chapter, I believe, of the story you began on The Mystery of Time. So where are you taking the listener on the journey with Ghostlights?
Well, as fans know, that Mystery of Time album started with a young agnostic scientist who is realizing that, time is moving faster and faster, and he senses that something is happening around him and that everybody's being stuck in it or caught in a treadmill and everybody's just running faster, and it seems like this treadmill is sped up. And he joins a group of scientists who are trying to manipulate people's individual perception of time and who try to find a way to set a common pace for everybody so they can align everybody's individual perception of time and make it a common perception of time so everybody gets to the same page. And this young scientist, for some reason, throughout the story, realizes that what happens in the name of a possible progress becomes more a tool to control people, to speed them up commonly, and that there is a secret, sinister force behind it, which is interested in getting people to burn out and to just get tired and to have to lose all their energy so they can think about what's really important in their lives. And that's where the story picks up. It's just pretty much a reflection of the personal journey of that protagonist who's agnostic in the beginning, but who gets more and more confronted with the question if he is a person based on, if he's a materialistic existence or if his roots are spiritual. And there's so many things I'm trying to come up with questions about in that story. And I think all those questions you don't ask if you're too stuck in whatever you are doing. If you're too busy just running, you don't have any free energy left to think about what truly matters in life. I think this is what happens to everybody of us. If you look around, we are really distracted by, I don't want to say false ideals, because it's not my, I'm not in the position to judge what everybody thinks is right for himself, but at least questionable ideals. We're all busy with things that I think distract us from what could possibly be really important in our lives. And so this new album is reflecting on the journey of that protagonist who is asking more and more questions about existence and about his existence and about spirituality and materialism and which way to go. And it's basically phrasing a lot of questions that came up in my mind when I was just, thinking about the whole topic and taking actually the time to think about those things. And it's exciting. What I think is so great about this record is that even though it's a conceptual album, it's more of a, I would say, it's 12 tracks that work beautifully together, but at the same time you can single just one out and whichever you want. and it makes sense of its own. And that's what I wanted to do. I didn't want to write a conceptual album where the third track was just telling, oh, this is the song that describes the flights of the dragon, those kinds of things. I didn't want to come up with such a cheesy thing. So I wanted every song to make a universal sense just of its own. Wow, have I killed you now with that answer? Now you think, what the fuck is he smoking? No, I'm not smoking anything.
That may be one of the reasons why people are responding to it so favorably, is you don't have those backstory filler pieces tying it together. They can all be standalone pieces, so I think you did really well there. And as usual, you always have so many amazing guest vocalists, and I have to imagine when you're writing some of these songs, you have specific people in mind, like Jorn Land, Michael Kiske, Sharon Den-Adel, but you've got 4 new voices this time: Geoff Tate, Robert Mason, Dee Snider, Marco Hietala. How did you come to pick those? How do you decide who's going to come in for these new songs that maybe people you haven't used before?
Haven't used before. That sounds like I'm abusing them and using. No, I just pretty much I invite them, and I'm really, really happy if they accept the invitation. I mean, all of those musicians that are involved in the album, even the new ones that I haven't been working with before, are musicians that inspired me in a way, or that I look up to. I mean, everybody who is singing that way as I do, and Michael Kiske, those us kinds of singers, we're all inspired by Geoff Tate. And it's just like, if you're in metal and you sing like that, and theatrical vibrato kind of 3.5 octave thing, that very, which is pretty much considered a European thing. You are inspired. You have been inspired by Geoff Tate. And I had that song, for example, Seduction of Decay. I didn't think of Geoff when I was writing the song, but after the song was finished, I thought, well, even though it had some Led Zeppelin-esque feeling, I thought it would be too obvious, too cheap if I would ask a blues singer or a Led Zeppelin-esque, a Robert Plant kind of singer to sing that song. And I was trying to figure who could be the right singer to give it some more mysterious touch. And I thought of Geoff Tate, maybe because the mid-section of the song resembles Queensryche's Rage for Order era a little bit, in a way. Mm-hmm. I don't want to see it as a tribute or an homage, but I can't deny that this is one of my favorite albums. So I had that song, and I hummed along, and I sang that, it ain't the far cry that it seemed. I imagined, what would it be like? What would Geoff Tate sing it like? And I thought, wow, that sounds great. That fits. And I got in touch with Geoff, and they wanted to hear the song. And even though he had a pretty tight schedule, he listened to the song and he liked it and said, I will do it. That was it. It was great. That's always the fun part of producing an album like that. Even, the same thing with Dee Snider. I had that song, The Haunting, and to me, it sounded like something really eerie. It could be a Broadway track, and it had something very theatrical about it. And I wanted to have a singer who could portray a theatrical actor in a way, but at the same time sing the chorus in a very anthemic way and carry the long notes and make it sound very dramatic. And I was going through my record collection, and for some reason, it was based on intuition. I just said, it's got to be Dee Snider. That was it. It was just based on intuition, instinctively, very spontaneously. Although it may not be very obvious to ask Dee Snider to sing a song like that, I thought it would be a great fit because Dee Snider is a very, very theatrical person, a very interesting person who has got all different sorts of aspects to his personality and the way he sings, and with all the things he's done, to me, he was perfect for that. And I got in touch. He listened to the track and he said, it's a killer track, let me do it. So that was it. And it's like you always feel like a little boy in a toy store when you're in that phase of the production, when you're standing in front of your record collection, literally, and go through the different records and the different vocalists and think of who could be the singer on a particular song. That's just an amazing thing. But for other singers, like I have to say Michael Kiske or Bob Catley or Jorn Lande, those kinds of singers, I knew they would be involved in the album from the beginning, and that's very inspiring as well. So the Michael Kiske tracks, for example, I knew they would be sung by Michael Kiske. So, it can happen both ways. Sometimes you just write a song and you don't know who's going to be the right singer for it, and you're checking out possibilities afterwards. But sometimes you have a singer on your mind right from the start.
Well, it's funny you mention that because, like, on Master of the Pendulum, that song has a bit of a Nightwish feel to it, and then you've got Marco in there singing on the song, and I was like, did he think of Marco because it has a bit of that vibe, or did Marco's voice and the way you guys put it together give it that vibe afterwards?
I don't really know. Well, I certainly didn't write the song with Marco on my mind. The song was done, and I was trying to find a singer who could sing very aggressive and do that aggressive, heavy edge kind of fighting vocals in the verse and in the pre-chorus, and then a very anthemic melody in the chorus. And I was trying to find the singer who would be right for that. And I remembered after the song was done, I mean, the basics were recorded and everything. I remembered that at a Metal Hammer award show in Berlin 1 year before, I had a long talk. I pretty much talked the whole night to Marco because he was nominated for some award, and Avantasia won some award. We're at that award show. Anyway, I was having a long conversation with him, and next day when we were in the taxi in the cab. Sorry, I'm doing an interview with somebody from America in the cab. So when I was in the cab to the airport, I talked to Marco about it and said, if I would ever do an Avantasia album again, would you consider being a part of it and sing a song? And he said, sure, just send me whatever you have in your mind, and then we take it from there. So I remembered that, and I thought instinctively Marco would be a great singer. And here's the funny thing is, the first time I heard Marco was not with Nightwish. It was when we did the early Edguy albums in Helsinki. We were staying at a private place in Helsinki in 97. We didn't have a budget to live in a proper hotel with that guy. And the guy who's living there, he was from that environment, I think, from that Tarot circle, whatever. At least there were a lot of Tarot albums, the other band of Marco Hietala. And I listened to it, and even back then, I knew that Marco was a great vocalist. So that was, I think, 2 or 3 years before he eventually joined Nightwish. So, yeah, it was just, again, pretty much as everything I do, it was based on intuition and instinct. I just did it. It was not planned. It was not a strategic move.
And, I think the voice that surprised me the most, or the choice, was Robert Mason, because I wasn't quite sure how you even knew who Robert Mason was. Here he is, this little singer in L.A. doing the thing with Warrant and Lynch Mob and whatnot. And I'm like, how does Toby even know about this guy?
Well, actually, I've known about this guy for several reasons. First and foremost, because he's a great vocalist, and great vocalists will make quite a buzz. It will. There's word of mouth, and the funny thing is, this was a very coincidental thing. Of course, I always loved the second Lynch Mob album, the first one as well, but right. The second one in particular, for some reason, I don't know why. Maybe because it's a great record. And there was this song No Good, and I've always loved the singer on that album. I didn't really care for who it was. I just knew I loved that singer. Then, for some reason, coincidentally, I bumped into an album by a band called Big Cock. I thought that was I didn't know the band. I just saw the album cover and the band name, and I thought, this is so ridiculous. That sounds so silly. I have to buy it and check it out. That's what I did. It had a rooster on the cover, and it was called Big Cock, and the album was called Year of the Cock. And I listened to it, and I said, wow, this guy's got great pipes. It's a great vocalist. And it was much later when I found out it was the same vocalist who was singing on Lynch Mob's second album. And then, in addition to that, around at the same time, or much later, I think, it was not the same time, our producer discovered that there was a vocalist in a TV series for kids that his son was always watching that was about a rock band, Tripp's Rock Band or whatever. It was a Disney TV thing. And it was obviously actors in there, but they were acting as a rock band. And the original soundtrack was sung by a great singer, and Sasha played it to me, our Avantasia producer and guitar player. And I said, I recognize that voice. That must be the guy who's singing in Big Cock. And it all came together. I found out it's the same singer, and I got in touch. And it was a difficult thing because, Robert is so old school. He's not on Facebook and not on Twitter, and I found that really, really funny because I hate these kinds of things as well. So I had to contact the Warrant camp. I found out he was the Warrant singer now, and I contacted them, and I said, he's probably not going to know who I am because we may be big in Europe and Asia and South America, but we're nothing in the States. I mean, I saw this crowd and said, I'm Toby, we're doing something like the ugly brother of Trans-Siberian Orchestra, the rock and roll brother of Trans-Siberian Orchestra. It's a European phenomenon. We're not very known in the States, and da-da-dee-da-da-da. I sent a letter to the management of Warrant. 1 week later, I got a reply by Robert Mason saying, hey, that's great, I want to be part of it. Alice Cooper and Eric Singer only speak highly of you. And I said, wow, that's great. And that was it. And man, when I got the recordings back, it just blew me away. He was so great. And he's amazing, very, very diverse, because I don't exactly sound like Warrant. I love him, but I don't sound like Warrant, and our music doesn't sound anything like Warrant. But he's so diverse. It was like a chameleon. It was a really great job.
When you're doing an album like Ghostlights, or especially any of the Avantasia albums, how do you manage to juggle all the ideas, all the players, and bring it together as a cohesive piece? Because there's just so much chaos going on.
It is chaos, and you just have to accept the fact that it will be chaos, and that's what is so exciting. I do a lot of things at the same time, and I believe that certain things are in your subconscious from the very beginning. It's just people always ask me, what comes first, the lyrics or the music, or how do you? I don't really know exactly what is first. It's all in the subconscious, and I just have to let it flow out, and it all comes together at the same time. Very chaotic. I have bits of the third song and bits of the beginning, and I sometimes have an idea, this could be a verse that could reflect the passage where the protagonist is doing that or this in the story, and then he could bump into that character who I refer to as Lucifer in the story. That could be sung by Jorn Lande. It comes together really unorganized, but if you have faith and if you remind yourself that you're not actually in rocket science, but in a rock and heavy metal band where it's allowed to be chaotic till the very final mastering, then it makes everything much easier. It takes a lot of pressure away from you, and naturally it all comes together right before you finish a production. It comes together, literally falls in place just by itself, and I have no explanation why, and I don't have a recipe, or I don't really know why it happens, but it just falls in place. You just have to let it flow and not interrupt it, and not let any pressure kind of prevent you from letting it flow on.
Right.
Does that make sense? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so last question before we get out of here. I don't know if you've been paying attention to the clock. It's been 15 years since you debuted the metal opera in 2001. How much has your goal or vision for Avantasia changed over that time?
I have no clue, because I cannot really compare, and I can't put the two eras next to each other and look at it from bird view, because I'm so involved with the present that I cannot watch the present from bird view as I can the past, which is getting kind of blurry in the rearview mirror anyway. All I can say is that I started out as a young musician with a vision and with a dream to record a particular album that seemingly nobody else cared about in the beginning. When I started, I remember how hard it was to get a record deal with it. That was just, it was a pain in the ass. Everybody said, well, it's great idea, but can you please ask someone else to release it? So I was following my own instincts and did it no matter what the public thought about it, no matter what the music industry thought about it. Nobody needed it really, and I just did it. And that approach hasn't changed. I still feel like sticking out like a sore thumb, only that nowadays I have the confidence that there is quite many people as weird as me who really appreciate thumbs that stick out, sore thumbs that stick out, so it's just, I feel I have made it comfy for myself in that situation I am. I think the musical approach has never changed, really. Of course, the music is a little different, and if I hadn't learned and hadn't gone through certain experience in the last 15 years, I would be quite silly, I believe. So, of course, I have developed, I've moved on, I've grown as a musician and as a personality, I hope, as well, and as a person, as a character. But I think it's still that innocent approach that I just want to play music to pretty much have a good time and enjoy myself. It's more self-therapy than anything else. It's still, I don't feel much pressure because I feel like I'm guarded by, I don't want to speak in terms of God or something spiritual, but I just feel I'm guarded. As long as I follow my own instincts, I feel like I'm safe. I'm on the safe side. And even if I will fail miserably in the future doing any kind of release, something could fail, I still feel that if that would happen, it wouldn't be quite a tragedy because I've always had so much fun doing whatever I did in the past. As long as you have fun doing things, it's not as painful if you fail as if it was if you didn't do things that you felt. Or in other words, David Lee Roth put it once that way, it doesn't matter if you win or lose. It's just important how great you look while doing it. so I just want to have a great time doing those kinds of things. And it's, nothing beats going in my basement in my home studio with a glass of red wine sitting on the piano and just playing out my music that just flows through me, putting it all together, trying to figure who could sing a certain song, contacting Dee Snider, getting a great recording back and releasing it. That's just the greatest gift in the world. And that innocent approach has never changed over the years.
Awesome, Toby. Thank you so much for taking the time. We look forward to seeing you out on tour. The album is fantastic. You have a wonderful night.
Thank you very much. Have a wonderful day and have a wonderful weekend.
Thanks. Take care, Toby.